Not long ago, talking to a computer meant clicking buttons and following menus. Today, you can ask an AI to write your resume, debug your code, explain the stock market, or help plan your vacation, and it just does it. How did we get here so fast? The answer starts with a quiet research paper published in 2018 and a model most people have never heard of. This is the story of how AI language models went from a niche experiment to something that is literally changing how people work, learn, and create right here in the United States, Canada, and around the world. Let's go back to where it all began. It's 2018. Most people are still skeptical that computers will ever truly understand language. Then, a company called OpenAI releases something called GPT-4. On paper, it sounds simple. You take a neural network, feed it a massive amount of text from the internet, let it learn the patterns of human language, and then you fine-tune it for specific tasks. But what happened next surprised researchers. This model, with around 117 million parameters, which sounds like a lot but is tiny by today's standards, started beating the state-of-the-art on multiple language tests without being specifically trained for each one. Nobody had seen that kind of generalization before. GPT-4 wasn't a product, it wasn't something you could chat with, but it proved an idea that would change everything. Pre-train big, fine-tune fast, the results will surprise you. 1 year later, OpenAI drops GPT-2. This one has 1.5 billion parameters, more than 10 times bigger than GPT-4. And something strange happened when researchers started testing it. It could write, like really write. You give it the first sentence of a news article, and it finishes the article coherently, with quotes, with dates, with a structure that reads like a real journalist wrote it. OpenAI was so worried about people using it to flood the internet with fake news and misinformation that they actually delayed the full release. Think about that. A tech company built something so powerful they were afraid to publish it. GPT-4 was the first time the world had a real conversation about AI safety, not in science fiction, but for real. By 2020, the world is in lockdown, and OpenAI releases GPT-3, 175 billion parameters. Writers, coders, marketers, and curious people everywhere get access to it through an API, and what they find blows their minds. GPT-3 could write essays, answer questions, generate working code, translate languages, summarize documents, brainstorm ideas. And here's the wild part. It could do most of this without special training for each task. You just asked it. A whole generation of startups was born overnight, building products on top of GPT-3. Some of those companies are now worth billions of dollars. GPT-3 didn't just push technology forward, it pushed AI into the mainstream conversation, in boardrooms, in schools, in living rooms across North America and beyond. Here's something people don't talk about enough. GPT-3 was powerful, but it was also kind of a pain to work with. Ask it a simple question and it might just keep generating text in the style of your question instead of answering it. It wasn't trained to help you, it was trained to predict the next word. Enter InstructGPT. OpenAI used a technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. Basically, real humans rated the model's responses and the model learned to do more of what humans actually found helpful. The result? A model that listened, that followed instructions, that tried to be genuinely useful instead of just statistically plausible. This might sound like a small tweak. It was not. It was the foundation that made everything that came next actually usable by everyday people. November 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT. Within 5 days, it had 1 million users. Within 2 months, 100 million users. For comparison, Instagram took 2.5 years to reach that same number. Suddenly, AI wasn't just a tool for developers and researchers. Your neighbor was using it, your coworker was using it, parents were asking their kids about it at the dinner table. People were using ChatGPT to write cover letters, plan meals, study for exams, fix their code, draft emails, get therapy-adjacent support, and 1,000 other things nobody had even thought to program. It was a cultural earthquake, and it was built on everything that came before it. GPT-3's scale, InstructGPT's alignment, and years of quiet research finally catching fire. In March 2023, OpenAI releases GPT-4. OpenAI doesn't publish the exact parameter count anymore, but this model is a major step forward. GPT-4 passes the bar exam. It scores in the top percentile on the SAT. It handles complex coding problems, nuanced ethical questions, and long multi-step reasoning chains with an accuracy that GPT-3 simply couldn't match. But there's something new here, too. GPT-4 is multimodal. That means it can look at images and respond to them. You can show it a broken circuit board and ask what's wrong. You can send it a handwritten math problem. You can drop in a screenshot and have it explain it. Experts start calling it the first AI system that can genuinely handle sophisticated intellectual work at a high level. The race is officially on. Not long after GPT-4, OpenAI releases GPT-4 Turbo. Same core intelligence, but faster, cheaper, and with a much larger context window, meaning you can give it way more text at once. Entire books, long legal documents, hours of transcript. This was a big deal for businesses. Suddenly, building AI-powered products that could handle real-world scale became financially practical. It's the difference between a sports car and a sports car you can actually afford to fill up with gas. In 2024, OpenAI introduces GPT-4o, and the O stands for Omni. This is the one that makes a lot of people stop and go, okay, this is different. GPT-4o doesn't just handle text, it handles text, images, and audio, all inside a single unified model, not separate systems duct-taped together. One model that sees, hears, and speaks. The voice conversations start feeling genuinely natural. It reacts in real time. It picks up on tone. It can laugh. It can pause thoughtfully. For millions of people across the US and Canada, this is when AI started feeling less like software and more like something else entirely. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. What if instead of answering fast, an AI took its time and actually reasoned through a problem? That's the idea behind OpenAI's O1 and O3 models. These models don't rush. They work through problems step by step, kind of like a really good student shows their work on a math test rather than just guessing. The result is dramatically better performance on things like advanced math, science research, coding challenges, and logical puzzles, areas where careful, deliberate thinking matters more than raw speed. O3 in particular pushed this even further, showing real improvement on some of the hardest AI benchmarks ever created. This reasoning-first approach is now shaping how the whole industry thinks about building the next generation of models. OpenAI wasn't alone in this race for long. Google, which had quietly been doing AI research longer than almost anyone, came back swinging with a model family called Gemini. Gemini was designed from day one to be multimodal. Text, images, audio, video, code, all of it natively. Google rolled Gemini into Search, into Gmail, into Google Docs, into Android. Billions of people started interacting with it whether they realized it or not. Gemini Ultra took on the most complex tasks: academic research, professional-grade reasoning, technical problem-solving. Google positioned it directly against GPT-4 as their flagship model. Then came Gemini 2.0, which took things a step further, focusing on AI agents, systems that don't just chat, but actually do things, browse the web, use software, complete multi-step tasks on your behalf. The age of AI assistants that take action was beginning. While OpenAI and Google were racing ahead, a different company was taking a different approach. Anthropic, founded by former OpenAI researchers, built Claude. Claude became known for a few things that set it apart. First, its writing quality. People consistently found Claude's prose more natural, more thoughtful, and more nuanced than other models. Second, its ability to handle long documents. Claude's context window, the amount of text it can hold in memory at once, became one of the largest in the industry. And third, safety. Anthropic built Claude using something called constitutional AI, a framework designed to bake in values and boundaries from the ground up, not as an afterthought. Claude 3 launched in 2024 as a major leap forward, with multiple versions for different needs, from lightning-fast models to deeply capable reasoning systems. Claude 4 pushed even further: better coding, stronger reasoning, and more sophisticated ability to handle complex, multi-step tasks over time. For a lot of professionals, writers, lawyers, researchers, educators, Claude became the go-to tool.
Here's where the story gets really interesting. While OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic were building powerful but closed systems, Meta, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, decided to go a different direction. They released Llama as an open-weight model, meaning researchers, developers, and companies could download it, modify it, and build on top of it. Llama 2 took that even further, and suddenly the open-source AI community exploded. People were running powerful AI models on their laptops. Small teams were building specialized assistants for healthcare, law, education. Llama 3 closed the gap even more, delivering reasoning and knowledge that started competing directly with the big proprietary models. Meta's bet was that an open ecosystem would ultimately beat a closed one. That debate is still very much alive, and then the race went truly global. DeepSeek R1, developed in China, shocked the AI world by matching the reasoning performance of top-tier American models, but at a fraction of the development cost. It forced everyone to ask, is expensive the only way to build great AI? Grok, built by Elon Musk's XAI company, brought real-time information access and a personality that was deliberately different from the pack, direct, sharp, sometimes edgy. And from Europe, Mistral AI, a French startup, released Mistral Large, showing that powerful AI development wasn't limited to Silicon Valley or Beijing. The world was now building AI, not just America, not just a handful of companies, everyone. So what does all of this mean? We went from GPT-4 predicting the next word in a sentence to AI systems that can see, hear, reason, write code, conduct research, take actions in software, and have genuine conversations, all in about 6 years. That's not slow, steady progress. That's an explosion. And here's what's wild. The people building these systems will tell you we are still in the early days. The next generation of models will be more capable, more reliable, cheaper to run, and more deeply woven into the tools you already use every day, at work, at school, at home. For people across the United States and Canada, that means real practical change in how professionals do their jobs, how students learn, how creators make things, and how everyday problems get solved. Whether that's exciting, unsettling, or somewhere in between, one thing is clear. This story is far from over, and the next chapter is being written right now. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives on the technology shaping our world, and drop a comment below. What AI model or topic do you want us to cover next? Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.